window, it's a little stuffy in here.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're not too cold. You're okay?
Much.
No, you can if you're not too cold, you can open the window a little bit. That's good. Chin?
She had to leave to
she
take
had
care
to-
of the baby.
Okay. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, this ahankara, which is like what? The little snail. Yeah. Inferior, feeling like it has no backbone, and therefore it needs to grow defenses in the form of this huge persona, which is just an empty shell to really talk about it. It's an empty shell that is just going round and round, this huge persona, and if you open this persona, what is there? This squiggly, wriggly creature. That is what the ego is like. The ahankara is just like that. And the other thing is that the shell is like a vortex. It's an endless vortex of notions. A maze in which this little animal first goes in for shelter and then what? Becomes trapped. So the earth is there, yes, but the shell is also there in this earth. So this is the dual consciousness of the student. I want the knowledge, but I want to retain the status of being the knower. Impossible. Because in all other branches of knowledge you can do that. You can remain who you are and say, I'm an expert in physics. Like nowadays there are so many things. Astrophysics, microbiology, biochemistry, all these complex fields. You can say, I'm the knower. Who knows this? Me. Because all those knowledge bases, those knowledges are knowledges of objects, where you can retain your identity and flash yourself as this wonderful knower. You can present yourself as the knower of so and so, as an expert in the field. This is very important because the word kshetra is being used here. I'm an expert in all these fields. This is the language of academia. This is what I know this, I am here, I'm wonderful, I'm an expert in this field. It's as good as dementia. Because when you say that, you are retaining yourself as separate, correct? And this body of knowledge alone has the power to knock off the knower. Only then it can be called knowledge of the subject. Because the subject who is subject to having this big shell of notions, carrying this huge burden. The snail is carrying this burden. The protection itself becomes a burden immediately. And so the snail is somehow keeping on carrying this uselessly around, long past its need. And then eating every seed that is given instead of letting it grow, becoming a threat to the very soil that it has prepared. So the ahankara, the ego, likewise is an agent of self-sabotage. It cannot be removed because without it you cannot gain the knowledge. who is gaining the knowledge? A rock, Even to say, I rock, after this knowledge, some ahankara should remain. But it is an ahankara which is lightened of its burden to keep the status of the knower separate. So it's not that we are trying to destroy the ahankara, because the ahankara means I notion. When the I notion becomes burdensome, it has to be lightened. That is what we are trying to do. We are trying to lighten it of all its presentations and of all its false personas that it has gathered through its lifetimes and all its defensive and offensive mechanisms, so that the knower, the status I know, can be knocked off. Otherwise you will always be giving the wrong answer, like the students in the first two students in the Kenopanishad. Do you know Brahman as an object? Yes. Well, that means you don't know anything. Okay, I don't know anything. Yes, that also means you don't know anything. So the knower itself is knocked off in which knowledge? That is the knowledge we need. That is the knowledge we have to, embrace. And here, that's why in no uncertain words, in no uncertain ways, Narahari is saying very clearly that the bodhaha guru parinamaha nashishya parinamakaha. The student is not the transformative agent of knowing here, because the subject matter of the knowledge is the student itself. You see this? So what role does the student have? Nothing. Destroy this big shell, this shell of calcified notions. That's all it is. Don't come in your own way. And then going on the same vein, a few more verses are there. Very beautiful. Drumo hi bija jatiyah. Drumo hi bija jatiyah. Kshetra jatiya ko nahi. Bodho hi guru jatiyah. Shishya jatiya ko nahi. Yeah, so the tree is of the DNA of the tree has what has in common, is identical to the DNA of the seed, correct? But would it be correct to say that the DNA of the tree is identical to the earth in which it grows? No. That's all that is said in the first line. Drumaha bija jatiyah. It is of the nature of the tree of moksha here, is of the nature of the knowledge of the self. Because the tree of moksha, the DNA of the tree of moksha is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, and the teaching is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So, the seed is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Satyam Jnanam Anantam means that which is that one presence, which is everything, without which there is nothing, which is in the form of all knowledge, limitlessly so, all pervasive, limitlessly so. So that is the nature of the seed. What is the seed here? The teaching. And so if something grows as a result of the teaching, in the mind of the student, this big tree grows. The tree is also having that same Satyam Jnanam Anantam DNA. Yeah. That is, it is nothing to do with it does not, the tree of moksha growing in the mind of the student is not absorbing, is free of the ragadveshas. It is not absorbing the ragadveshas. What else is there in the mind? I am no good, inferiority complex, inadequacy, jealousy, kama, krodha, lobha, desires, all these things, avarice, greed, all these things the tree is separate from. Why? Because the tree is the direct result of the seed, and the tree has more in common with the seed than where it grows. This should make one feel very good, because usually people who come to the teaching, I am no good, I have so much guilt and hurt, I have this, unconscious. Once Pujya Swamiji said, sometimes people have a heavy unconscious due to abandonment and everything at childhood. And then 2 days later he came and said, I have to edit what I said about the heavy unconscious, because now people are having a new complex. I have a heavy unconscious. The unconscious was itself an explanation to take away the guilt, because it's not your fault. But then here the people started to say, oh, I have a heavy unconscious, oh, I'm no good. That became one more complex. So then Swamiji had to come and edit himself and say, this is not what was said. You see? So this is what the whole thing is. So the student is dismally in the state of despair. Here we are talking of the despair that is there, which is sometimes dressed up in overconfidence, but it is still despair alone that is talking. And so this dismal, desperate outlook. What does the student say? I can never get this knowledge. Think how angry I get. Think how upset I get, even if the slightest thing happens. Think how my equilibrium, samatvam, equilibrium is completely distorted. Smallest thing can take it away. Think about all this. And plus, of course, the student is married, and then the significant other keeps reminding, how long have you been studying Bhagavad Gita? Still you get angry. How long have you been taking these classes? Still you are acting like this. That also doesn't help the student, correct? People at home, especially if you have teenage children, you will get moksha very fast, because they'll keep reminding you everything that is not in this. One person was telling me recently that something she was saying to her son, and the son shared something and she reacted, because she was feeling a little like, what is this? And then immediately he said, so how long have you been studying Vedanta, mom? You still are going to ashram, you're still attending classes, all for what? To react because I shared something. And so like this the student's mind is very fragile. And so in this fragility, this feeling that I'll never get this knowledge, and even if the knowledge grows, it will be tainted by my anger. It will have to coexist, because it's the same mind. It's the same mind in which the raga dveshas are proliferating. Like amoeba they are growing, and then it's the same mind full of greed, jealousy, anger, fear. It's the same mind. So how can this mind, tainted as it is, stay with the pure bright light of knowledge? So a student like me will even darken the light of knowledge with my ignorance and with my wrong thoughts. That is the feeling. But thankfully, all the desires, fears, raga, dvesha, and all the mental modifications are what? Mithya. Mithya means they are dependent on this, on you. You are not dependent on them. No, but I am dependent. I am a slave of my raga, dveshas. That is just a feeling. A feeling that has to come appealing. It has to be peeled off. Yeah. Because it's not appealing really. So it has to be peeled off. It's really a feeling that you are in the spell of your desires is a feeling. You are not. Do your desires pre-exist you? No, you are, therefore desire is. You cannot say, desire is, therefore I am. Although some days it feels like that. But that's not true. That's not correct. So therefore, these desires have a dependent reality in the sense that you are there, that's why they are there. And the you that you are trying to discover is free of those desires, is free of the consequent anger. Anger comes because desire is thwarted. Jealousy comes again because of desire. That's why karma is at everything, is at the root of everything. And so you need not have any fear that first of all this knowledge will not take place because my mind is a untilled field of desires and snails of all kinds of notions. Because all that is a dependent reality. It is not independent of you. And these are notions about you that have come as a result of not knowing yourself. And so the tree of knowledge that is growing in the mind of the student, what does it do? It pushes the desires away. It grows so big and so tall, it crushes the snails. It just powders all the residual things that are growing there. It just takes over. Need not have any fear that the desires are going to taint the knowledge. In fact, you have to really worry what's going to happen to my desires as a result of this knowledge. So the tree that is growing, pushes away all the parasitic growths. Parasitic? How do you say it? Parasitic growths. The little creepers of doubts and despair, the barnacles and all those, what are those wispy things that grow, from the trees. This Spanish moss, this uva, arsi, all these herbs that are, it's like a tree becomes an ecosystem for all of them. All of them get destroyed here because all of them are dependent on this tree, which is your true nature, your own nature, which has been overpowered by the parasites, which have been feeding into your self-esteem. And that's why, because of these parasitic notions, I'm not good enough, you think that this tree will be, because these parasitic notions are strangulating your sense of self-esteem and joy, you think they will do the same to the tree. No, it's the other way around. The tree pushes them out, strangulates them, deprives these notions of water, and then what? Shines as you, because that tree is really you. The seed for which was given from the mouth of the teacher into the ear of the student. So the ear is the place of planting the seed. It's a very special tree. Yeah, very nice, no? So beautiful. Further, on the same note, so Drumohi bija jatiyah. So the tree is of the nature of the seed. Kshetra jatiya ko nahi. It is not the nature of the place where it is. It does not have anything in common with the place where it is sown. Similarly, likewise, in the same manner, bodha, the teaching is in the form of the teacher. In fact, the teaching is non-separate from the teacher. Thankfully, it is not of the nature of the desperate student. So the despair of the student cannot touch this knowledge or taint this knowledge. That's why there is no attrition in the teaching. Even though the lineage may be tens of thousands of years old, it is given exactly in the same form because the I never swerves from its nature. And the I, being self-revealing, is recognized exactly as such. Okay? Yeah. बीजेन बीजजातीयः तरुः क्षेत्रे समर्पितः गुरुणा स्वात्मजातीयः बोधशिष्ये समर्पितः. So this is just summing up this particular thing that we saw. Bijena, in the form of the seed, Bija jatiyah taruhu, the tree which is in the of the nature of the tree that belongs to the nature of the seed. Kshetre samarpitaha. Samarpitaha was dedicated to the ground. Kshetra here, ground, the earth. So the tree which was of the nature of the seed was sown in the ground, correct? Similarly, bodha, this teaching, this knowledge of the self, this self-knowledge is what? Is of the nature of the teacher. Is of the nature of the teacher that is placed into the student. So really speaking, we are not talking of knowledge being placed into the mind of the student. What is being placed into the mind of the student? The teacher is being placed in the mind of the student. Oh, that's kind of funny. Yeah, it's funny because if you think of the teacher as a separate entity, you feel like you're being possessed by the teacher. That sounds weird. Yes. But here the teacher is not a separate entity, that is the whole thing. The teacher is none other than the nature of the student. The nature of the teacher, the nature of the student are one and the same. And that being the case, if the nature of the teacher and the nature of the student are one and the same, then what? Then there is no person is entering another person or possessing another person. Because how many persons are there? One. Then what is the need to go inside the other person? Because it's not the person, it's the personality. Many personalities, one person. So the what is put in the student is the entire teacher, which is nothing. The teacher has to be seen as the knowledge. First as the giver of the knowledge and then as knowledge itself. And what is this knowledge? You are great, you are wonderful, there is nothing other than you, there is nothing unlike you, you are the whole, you are free of all encumbrances, you are free of fear and sorrow. This is the knowledge. And that is embodied by the teacher. And when that knowledge enters the student, what is that called? It's like the teacher entering the student. So that's what is talked about here. Let us see the words a little more. So, which verse is this now? Fourth? Five. Yeah, I was reading the fourth one. Okay. Bijena bijajatiyah taruhu kshetre samarpitah. That is what is exemplified here. So through the seed, the tree which is of the nature of the seed is put in the ground. Guruna, in the form of the teacher. Svatmavidyananda. And what is the nature of the teaching? Of its own nature. The nature of the self. Swa-atma. The nature of the person. So here, through the teacher, the nature of the person itself, bodha, this knowledge, the knowledge of the nature of the person. How many persons? One. The knowledge of the nature of the self is shishye, in the student placed. So the seed is planted in the ground, and the seed is of the nature of the tree, and then the bodha, the knowledge, is in the nature of the teacher, which is the nature of the self, is similarly implanted in the mind of the student. Oh, okay, that sounds good. And after it is implanted, then the knowledge becomes mine, right? And then I become the knower of the knowledge, right? No. How do we know? Read the next verse. Actually, next two we have to study because they go together. Vanhi prabhaki vartistha tamohante prakashate tamohantri prakashatma प्रभैव न तु वर्तिका गुरुप्रभा हि शिष्यस्था तमोहन्ति प्रकाशते तमोहन्ता प्रकाशात्मा गुरुरेव न शिष्यकः. Yeah, so sixth one says, gives another example. Now enough of seed and tree, because that example we have exhausted the example. We have looked at all the seeds, we have looked at all the trees, we have looked at the snails, we have, studied the growth of the tree and the fruit, and we have sucked the example out of this tree seed, metaphor. Correct? We have sucked everything out. Now therefore, a new example, Vartika. Vartika means wick. Yeah. And then Vanhi, fire. Okay? So this new example is being talked about, and it is a little more easier to understand, because we like to see the knowledge as light. Correct? All light. And so the knowledge is all light that shines the flashlight of this, the glory of the self onto the darkest dungeon-like places in the receptacle of the mind, which is harboring wrong notions about the self. Okay? So therefore, this light example becomes very, very easy to assimilate. Wonderful. And so here, Vanhi means what? Fire. Vanhi prabhahi varthistha. So when you take a lighter or matchstick, whatever you take, and you light the oil. See, in those days they didn't have tea lights. What did they have? Oil lamps. So you have a clay lamp, and then you have a wick made of cotton, very easy to make. You just take a cotton ball and then apply a little oil, and then you just make it into a long little wick, and then you curl the wick in the thing, and then a little piece of it is coming out of this earthen lamp. That's how they used to. Even now they have that in India. And then you fill the whole thing with oil, correct? And then the oil is not part of the example, so don't complicate the example. Only the wick and the light. Then what happens? The fire lights the wick. Okay? So now the question is, the wick goes and takes the nature of the fire, and the wick is dancing now, right? As the fire. Now the question is, does the fire, belong to the wick, or does it belong to itself? It belongs to itself. You cannot say that the wick has turned into fire. Wick is wick, correct? Fire is fire, right? So this is another example that's being given here to show the glory of the Guru, and to have the third pin in the ahankara of the student, because the first two we saw already. And so what is the fire here? The fire is the fire of knowledge, and the wick is the prepared mind of the student. So the wick borrows the fire, and then you cannot say that the property of the wick is to be fiery. You cannot say that, correct? And so the property of the fire alone is to be fiery and to have heat and light. The properties of heat and light belong to the fire, not to the wick. Similarly, the knowledge is belonging to the Guru, not to the student. It is not generated by the student. Yeah. So just like the wick has not generated the fire, it's simply borrowing that light and displaying that light. So too in a quote unquote enlightened Shishya, what you see is the signature of the teacher. Very beautiful. Yeah, that is what, the whole thing is. So, what does it say? The first, number 6. Vanhi Prabha, the light of the fire. He indeed, vartistha. Vartistha means, vartikayam tishtati iti vartistha. So it lives in the wick. So the light of the fire indeed lives in the wick. And what does it do? Tamohanti, dispels darkness. Prakashate, lights up everything. Dispels darkness and lights up everything. What? The little wick lamp. Tamohantri. So what is dispelling the darkness here? Is the wick dispelling the darkness? No. Tamohantri prakashatma prabha eva tamohantri. So feminine. Tamohantri is prabha. The prabha means the light. So the light of the Shastra, which is also feminine, Shruti light, which is coming through the mouth of the Guru, this light is dispelling the darkness. You cannot give the credit of dispelling the darkness to the wick, correct? You cannot say, oh wick, you are dispelling the darkness. What is wick? Wick is wick. Yeah. But the light is a borrowed light, and the light is dispelling the darkness even though it is carried by the wick. So, tamohantri prakashatma prabhaiva natu vartika. So you cannot credit the wick with the act of dispelling the light, dispelling the darkness. Similarly, Guru Prabha, the light of the teacher, he indeed is existing, or abiding in the student. The light of the teacher only abides in the student. And what does it do? Tamohanti, dispels the darkness of ignorance and lights up the mind of the student. Tamohanta, here the masculine, because his guru was a man. Tamohanta prakashatma, so the one that is in the form of all light, the dispeller of the darkness, guruhu eva, is the guru alone. Na shishyakaha, you cannot say the shishya is dispelling the darkness. So again here, the student as an agent of self-knowledge is being trampled upon. Because you cannot say, I know Atma as an object, because that is where the problem is. The problem is in thinking that everything that I know is of the nature of an object which I can objectify, and this knowledge is also initially pursued in the same way. I want to gain the Kathopanishad, I want to master Kathopanishad. Okay, then after that what? Then I want to master Kenopanishad. Then I want to master. It's not about mastery. It's not about mastery of something other than yourself. So the self-mastery cannot happen by the self. The self-mastery needs help. And it's not self-help. Okay? So the self-mastery is needing the help. And the self-mastery cannot be mastered by the self. And so the self-mastery, for self-mastery, I have to approach the master of the self, who shines in me, who is all light, who shines as me. And I am not the agent of the knowledge, because that teacher shines as me. That is the whole idea. So anything that is there, any act of the dispelling of the ignorance is because of who? Because of the teacher. But when I start to think of myself as an agent of this knowledge, that means I have missed the boat, missed the bus, whatever is there to miss. Because this knowledge cannot have agency. Yeah. Why? Because it is all about the relieving the so-called agent of all agency. That's what the knowledge is. The knowledge is not about an object. It is about you, the very subject. So the subject that cannot be objectified That is what we are talking about. The subject cannot be objectified, and so the subject cannot say, I know myself as an object. But then how else will I know myself? As the subject. The subject is self-revealing. Do you know you are? Do you know you exist?
Yes.
Why did it take so long? I know why, because usually I say, are you here? That one everybody has the response to. This time I changed it purposely and I said, do you know you exist? Yes. Do you know you exist? Yes? Yes, I do. How do you know you exist? You have to consult me or somebody else? No. That is what is self-revealing light of lights. So I am is not subject to any doubt. I exist, I am. It's always in the continuous. I am, now, I am. I am is not subject to any doubt. Just don't ask the next question. What is the next question? What am I? Who am I? Because that's where the problem lies. I am is known and I am is unknown. Both. How? I am is known well enough to make a mistake upon that I, and I am is not known as the glory of the I. Therefore the mistake is possible. So I know I am, and this I know becomes a sitting duck for all kinds of complexes, the shells, that grow on this fellow. All kinds of notions. I am as good as the body because somehow there is a connection between this I and this body. I am as good as the mind. I am as limited as my lifespan. I am as limited as my energy. I am sick. I am diseased. I have all these shortcomings. This is the I that I know. And this I is equal to shortcomings. This I is equal to self-judgment, self-inadequacy. Somehow there is a very interesting marriage of the I with all these wrong notions. The I and the not I. The body is not I, but the I and the body have somehow become one through a marriage. Adi Shankara says, the I and the not I have this extremely incompatible marriage. Because the I is not happy with this marriage, and the not I really doesn't exist for it to be happy or not. The I is not happy with this marriage of marrying everything that is not I, and so I wants a divorce from the not I. Really, that's what it is. And the Guru is the judge. That's the Guru is the court here. And the Guru first says, all right, you are divorced. And then ultimately there was nothing to divorce from, because everything that you were trying to get away from is all you alone. That is what it is. So here the whole thing is very beautiful, because the I and the not I somehow have become best friends, so to speak. And the not I keeps broadcasting what to the I. The not I keeps saying that you are finite, you have a lot of problems, you are an idiot, you don't know anything. That is because of the association with the not I. So the self-revealing I is known as existent, but the self-revealing I is not known as the most glorious thing that there is. So you see, it's a half-baked knowledge of the I. When I say I know I am, it is just that I know I am. But then the next question immediately begs, my own ignorance. It broadcasts my ignorance. I know I am an idiot. I know I am, and I am not enough. So what does the self-knowledge do? The self-knowledge cleans up this not I parading as the I. It cleans up this. It grants the divorce from the not I. It separates and then it unites and says, now you are ready to embrace the not I as you, because now you know that the not I doesn't have the power to overpower you, to disempower you. So first there is this unsavory marriage, and then what? Then the Guru grants a divorce initially and then says, take the not I back as yourself. Embrace everything. That is what the oneness is. It's embracing everything without leaving anything at all. So embrace everything. Take this not I that you cast away. Oh, this body is not me, then what are you? Take the body back. Accept it with all its frailties and limitations. Know that you are beyond your body. But the body is you, you are not your body. Mind is you, you are not the mind. Senses are you, you are more than the senses. All things are you, you are not any one thing. This is the knowledge. See, so much background knowledge you need just to know this Guru-Shishya relationship. Amazing. That's why this makes it a very deep text, because it is very nuanced and layered. Very nice. So therefore the knowledge is behaves in a very interesting way, beautiful way. So the knowledge is all about dispelling wrong notions, because that knowledge is already shining as you. So it's not that new knowledge is being put into you by the teacher. The teacher just brings a sweep, is a sweeper. The teacher, the Guru, is the janitor that cleans up. That sweeps up all the wrong things that are there in the mind. That's all it is. And so here, Vanhi Prabha, we saw the light of the sixth one we saw, and similarly seventh one is just talking about what is exemplified here. Guru Prabha hi shishyastha tamohanti prakashate tamohanta prakashatma gurureva na shishyakaha. On the other hand, so here the shishya has to be, first we have to see that the shishya has to be in a place of being a recipient, a proper receptacle of this knowledge. That's all the role of the shishya is. The shishya cannot try to intuit this knowledge, cannot try to do it yourself. This knowledge, DIY knowledge, self-knowledge does not exist. Because who is reading, same thing, if you read this you will not understand. Who is reading? The one who knows or the one who doesn't know? The one who doesn't know. The one who doesn't know is reading the Upanishad, and the Upanishad says you are the whole, and what do? You who are reading, turn the next page. Okay, got it. Okay, next. Why? Because the infrastructure, your own infrastructure of who you think you are, is coming in the way of this knowledge. That's why the reading doesn't help. That's why I'm going to stumble on this knowledge doesn't happen. Why? Because you cannot stumble on the knowledge. The stumbler is the nature of the Atma. We are talking of the nature of the intuitor, we are talking of the content of the stumbler. So you cannot stumble upon this knowledge, you cannot somehow get it, and you cannot somehow wait for Bhagavan to give it. We discussed that last time. Even Bhagavan has to become a teacher to give the knowledge. We saw that last time, right? Yeah. So like this, you have to remember the centrality of needing the teacher in the course of this knowledge. Because without the teacher, the knowledge will not take place. That is what is being talked about. Without the fire, the lamp will not be lit. Next one. Again, the metaphor is being switched. A new metaphor. Yadagnih kashtamaruhya Bhasmasat kurute purim Bhasmasat karanam tatra Guno vanherna kashtagaha Bodhatmana guru shishyam Avishyadahati kshanat Yadvaitam sa guru shaktihi
Yadvaitam Sadguru Shakti
Na Shishyasyeति Nirnayaha.
Nashishyasniti Nirnayaha.
So now we are taking, first it was this small little wick, correct? That was receiving the fire. So we have this small little lamp, and then from that we saw the metaphor of the destruction of the notions as the primary way in which the knowledge is gained. It's not that the knowledge is gained as more information. This knowledge is not information about the self. It is the destruction of wrong notions about who you think you are. Correct? And so that is being furthered here in the form of the Vanhi, the fire. Agnihi. So what does Agni do? Agnihi kashtam aruhya. Kashta here is wood. It climbs onto the wood. In fact, you see it. Sometimes, you in the Homa, you see it. You put a new piece of wood, and for a while it is like that in the fire ritual when we do. And then suddenly the fire climbs onto the wood. Aruhya. A plus ruh. Ruh to climb. Rohati. To grow. To rohati means to grow, but aroha means to climb up. So what does the fire do? It jumps onto the wood, right? And then what does it do? Bhasmasat kurute purim. What wood here? The trees, the forest. And then bhasmasat. The bhasmasat means reduces everything to ashes. This sat is a pratyaya, is a suffix which means completely. So whenever you see sat, it means completely. Bhasmasat means completely reduces everything to ashes. Everything is reduced to ashes. The fire doesn't say, I like this object of art, I'll save this and then, destroy this. No. The fire uniformly destroys everything without a trace. Everything is reduced to ashes, correct? Yeah. So, Vannihi Agnihi Kashtam Aruhya Bhasmasat Kurute Purim. Puri means here, Puri means city. Yeah. What other city do we know? What city? What city? This citadel of this city. That is why he uses the word city. So the fire destroys the entire city, and here this Ahankara is seen as city here. The Ahankara is seen as the king of this citadel. So the Ahankara's reign and kingdom are destroyed by the fire of knowledge. Just like the fire destroys the city, the Guru destroys. Guru, who is the light of knowledge, destroys the Ahankara that is masquerading as the king of this small little, paltry little body, mind, sense complex and small little achievements, thinking that that's the end of everything. So the Ahankara, the ego, is fond of smallness. It does not like, bigness. It is unable to think big. It only just revels in small things. It cannot handle bigness at all. And that revelry of small things, okay, that's good. It's satisfied by small things, we can say. But no, is it really satisfied by small things? Not at all. It keeps wanting everything big, but yet it cannot, come out of itself. So this light of knowledge, so it has set up an alternative kingdom. Puram ekadasha dvaram avakrachetasah. We saw this in the Kathopanishad. So the Ahankara has set up a Puri, a false city of notions, smallness, fears, desires, and then it thinks it is reigning over this false city. And then even if you try to drag it and say, look, you have the whole universe, you are the Raja of the universe, it says, no, I want my small little, like the snail. You drag it out of the shell and say, look at the world, it will go back into the shell. Just like that. So the Ahankara, it's like that king who was told, the king of So Raipur means a small little village in Madhya Pradesh, small little principality. So the king was told, you are the king of the whole of India. Oh, I don't know if I can leave Raipur. No, whether you leave or not, you are the king of the whole of India. Oh, I'm the king of whole of India? And now I'm the king of India? First I was king of Raipur, now is Raipur included in the kingdom? This is how the ignorant, jiva, the ignorant person thinks. The ignorant person thinks what? I am going to be deprived if I let go of the ahankara. That this ahankara, this ego, has set up a parallel reality, and if that reality were good enough, nobody will disturb it. But this parallel reality is choking the life breath out of me. It is leading to wrong notions about myself. It is leading to misunderstandings about who I am. It is leading to samsara. It is leading to relentless striving. It is leading to sorrow. It is leading to fear and doubt centered on I. So this wrong kingdom has to be dismantled, starting with that fellow's throne. That throne has to be taken out from under the person. Who is this? The ego. So the ego has set up a new kingdom, parallel to Bhagavan's kingdom. And the ego issues orders and creates and takes back and behaves like a baby Bhagavan, but without really the knowledge. Ignorantly so. And so the ego has the ego's kingdom has a very big defense mechanism. Right? Soldiers, marching orders they have to keep the knowledge out. Yeah, why? Because they they are interested in only their small little kingdom. I once said, this knowledge makes you give up smallness. And afterwards a student came and said, oh, but then at least I had the smallness. Now you're even taking that away from me. Fears of ignorance, correct? Yeah. And so, at least I was enjoying the smallness. Were you really enjoying? No. But at least that's all I know. That's all I had. And now you're taking away from me all I know and all I had. Yes, but I'm giving you all. That is not understood. That is not understood because the all is seen as one more object in addition to that small. But the small, is really all. It has to be understood. It just has to lose the first two letters. Small is all. That's all it is. So too the ahankara has to lose its sense of pelf and power to be able to see that it is indeed everything, not just attached to this body, mind, sense complex and having this limited, alternative, parallel and self-destructing kingdom. Parallel kingdom, paralyzing kingdom. Yeah. And this is what, so here comes the fire of knowledge, the fiery words of the Shruti spoken by the teacher. What? Burns away this kingdom. What am I going to do? Just a momentary feeling. Burns, it cauterizes this kingdom. There is no parallel reality because the parallel reality cannot grow in this all. When I know that I am all, there is no room for the small, because even the small is included in all, really. So then the Guru comes with the, not fire extinguisher, fire. And the Guru's words comes as the fire and reduce this little citadel of desire and despair into ashes. That is what these two verses are saying. So the first one was about the wood and how the wood is destroyed. What number is that? 8. Yeah. No, that was 7. Yeah, no, that was 8, yes. So, yadyapi kashtam aruhya bhasmasat kurute purim. So, even though the wood climbs, the fire climbs onto the wood and destroys the whole city, bhasmasat karanam, the agent of this reducing to ashes is the quality of the fire, not the wood. The wood is the ahankara, okay? which has made its own city. So don't take the credit for the ahankara becoming destroyed. Don't say, first I destroyed this, then I destroyed that, then I destroyed my own ahankara. Not possible. And so the next verse talks about what is exemplified. Bodhatmana, in the form of the knowledge, the teacher, Shishyam avishya dahati kshanat. Avishya, entering the student, the mind of the student in the form of the knowledge, in a moment, dahati, burns up everything. Everything that doesn't belong, everything that is mithya, everything that is dependent, burns up everything. And what is that everything? Dvaitam. Yad dvaitam shishyamavishya bodhatmana, dvaitam dahati, burns duality, burns this parallel, paralyzing reality. Sa guroho shaktihi, that is the power of the teacher. Na shishyasya iti nirnayaha. Please tie this information down, tie this fact down, that this has nothing to do with the student. It is to do with what? The teacher alone. It has nothing to do with the student. So here, this is again avishya. When you see this, very beautiful things come into mind. There is a very nice creation cosmology in the Taittiriya Upanishad. When we studied the Bhashya, we didn't make it that far, but it is very beautiful. I have quoted it many times. It may be familiar to you. So kamayate bahusyam praja yegeti satapo tapyata satapas taptva idagam sarvam asrijata yadidam kincha tat srishtva tadevanupravishat tadanupravishya satchatyacha bhavat. Like this it continues. Saha akamayata. This is talking of the cosmology of creation. This is a metaphor which springs from these verses, so we have to understand this metaphor. This great being, that which was everything before the creation came into being, this great presence, this only presence which is all knowledge and limitlessly so, desired. What did it desire? Bahusyam prajayeya iti. Let me become many, become within quotes. A becoming that is not unbecoming by changing into what I have become. No. A becoming that is just lending my presence without undergoing any change. So let me quote unquote become many, it thought. So tapo tapyata, it remembered the last cycle of creation. This Brahman, and then what did it do? Tapas taptva, having remembered and all knowledge, it being all knowledge, it manifests as the whole creation. And tadeva tat srishtva, having created everything, it entered the very creation and all the things in the creation. So too, this whole creation metaphor was brought on right in the beginning. We saw that, correct? In the first verse itself, the whole thing about kshetra, and the student is the field, and the teacher is the one who is populating the field, so to speak. And that is very much goes along throughout. And here we see it coming to a completion here, kind of winding up here. And how do we see that? Just like the teacher, here is Bhagavan. Because in the last section we saw that the teacher is even better than Bhagavan. We saw the reasons given for that. And so the teacher here is Bhagavan. Just like Bhagavan creates out of nothing, so to speak, the teacher creates out of himself, herself. And what does the teacher create? The teacher doesn't create. Here it says the teacher destroys. And Bhagavan creates by entering into every aspect of the creation. And the teacher destroys by entering the mind of the student. Yeah. Destroys what? All wrong notions. Because there is no creation at all. Just like when we see the universe, we know that there is no creation, there is only Ishvara. Similarly, when you see the students, there are no students, there is only Guru. Because that Guru is in the mind of each student as the knowledge. There is no student at all. The student disappears. All there is the teacher alone. Very beautiful. So, Similarly, Shishyam Avishya, having entered the student, Dahati in a minute, Kshanat, Kshanat Dahati, in 1 minute, destroys this city or called Ahankara. And destroys what? Dvaitam Yat. Dvaitam means duality, destroys this parallel, paralyzing reality, and that is the power of the teacher. You cannot say that the student did it all by themselves. You cannot say that. Just like you cannot say the flower created itself. The rose created itself. No, you cannot say that. And you cannot say that of anything the earth created itself, the Vayu, the wind created itself. You cannot say that everything has a cause. This is the effect. So similarly, the student is the effect, the teacher is the cause. Very nice. But the effect here is non-separate from the cause. So too the student is non-separate from the teacher. Very nice. More we'll see next time. Do we want to meet next weekend? Will you be able to come? Sunday? Yes? No? Okay. Everyone else is able to come? Okay. You're not able to come? Oh, okay. So, other than 2 people, everybody will be here? Alright. So, we'll have class, and because whole of June I'm gone, and so that way I thought we can catch up for June also if we have 2 extra classes this month. One we've already had, and another one we'll have next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions? No questions? Online, any questions are there? Yeah.
In the 4th one, when the translation talks about awareness, you use the word teaching, and so.
Sorry, where? What are you talking about?
In the fourth verse.
Dhrumo hi bija jatiyah kshetra jatiya ko nahi bodho hi guru jatiyah. Where is the word awareness?
In the translation.
For the tree being of the nature of the seed is not the nature of the field. Knowledge being the nature of the guru is not the nature of the student. I don't see awareness in the 4th one.
We have different books. This is the new book, and they put in the word awareness instead.
Ignore it.
Okay.
Ignore the translation. Yeah, just look at what is being taught. The translation is just as a backdrop. Yeah.
I understand, but how do they come to that? Self-awareness as one as being one?
Sometimes consciousness is called awareness, but it's not clear. So don't get into it, because then it will be have its own spin-off and cycle. We don't need that. Yeah. You listen to the translation given here. That will be, and if it matches, well and good. If it doesn't matches, this one will be better. Whatever is said will be accurate, because it has the backing of the whole tradition behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, it got me confused.
Yeah, I can understand. Okay, Shinshin, no problem. Thank you. Take care. Om.